faithful? It's time. It's your boy, the coach, and we are here once again with the man with the plan, my guy, Tom Jensen. What's good, baby?
Plenty, lot going on, Coach. How are you?
I feel good, Tom. How are you doing, man? How are you doing?
Hanging in.
Hey, man, it's been good, bro. I feel good. I feel like we're moving into the next evolution of the season.
Yeah.
We're getting more answers. Some guys are not coming, showing up. We're starting to hear about some things around the league. And I'm glad you're here, man.
Hey,
I'm
me
glad
too.
you're
It's
here.
always great to be with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And first of all, I want to be able to ask you, first of all, this is the new setup. It's going to get better. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to ask you is, how are you doing, Tom? I feel like we go back and forth about football, but I want to take this time for the fan base and the supporters just to understand that Tom's got a life too. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing okay. I had a rough go on my health with some blackouts a couple weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, but I'm doing okay now. I'm getting a lot better, and I'm heading down to Eugene tomorrow for the pre-meet, so I'm really looking forward to that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. No, I'm a lot better, but thanks for asking, Coach. I appreciate it.
That's good, man. So look, this one we're not gonna blow this one out. This one gonna be all day. But let's just get to what's happening. CMC is holding out. Brandon Ayuk is not at OTAs, and Jawan Jennings has not signed his tender yet. Let's just get to it, right? So to begin with, is the holdout for Christian McCaffrey even real? All right. And more importantly, should the 49ers ensure or extend his participation in the upcoming season? Should they extend him or should they give him his money? How do you feel?
I think that they do need to do some things. They need to give him a raise for the 2 years left in his deal. They need to guarantee the money for 2025. But under no circumstances do you extend him. Because NFL running backs hit a wall at 30, and it's proven by history. Most of them can't get over 4 yards per carry.
Right.
There's a couple of people that do. Garrison Hurst did, but not many. And I don't think that you can count on it with Christian McCaffrey, especially given the workload that Kyle Shanahan puts on him and that he has a history of injury trouble. You can't take that risk. You can't take Christian into his 30s. And you need to have his replacement ready to go so that that player gets his opportunity as well. You can't draft a player in next year's draft to replace him and then sit him for 2 years. So you need to have McCaffrey for what's on his contract. This year, next year, done. Niners are going to have to do that. They're going to have to be hard. They're going to have to make a tough decision, but I think that'd be the right one. You can't extend McCaffrey. You can take care of him for the next 2 years, but no extension.
Well, what if he plays hardball, Tom? I mean, do you blame him for the position that he's in right now? Do you blame him?
No. It's just that's the reality and the truth of the NFL is that running backs die at 30, and every team knows it, and all the history backs it up. If Christian McCaffrey says, "Okay, I'm going to hold out," then they're going to have to deal with that. But if he says that no, I won't play unless you extend me into my 30s, the Niners have to say no.
Mm-hmm. So is this ushering in? I mean, are the Niners asking Christian McCaffrey to be a team player? Are they asking him to show up and play? I mean, how does this play out? What do we do, right? Because from a team standpoint, I don't sign Christian McCaffrey. I think that he's on the wrong side of 30. He's coming up on it. How do we move forward? I think we're in a transition period that nobody wants to realize right now.
Absolutely right.
You know, so how do we do this?
Couple of things. One is that you can meet McCaffrey halfway and say that, look, we recognize you were the offensive player of the year last year. You are the foundation of our offense. Okay, so we will reward you. We will increase your salary for this year and next. We'll guarantee your salary for next year, and that's it. We can't go any further.
Right.
And if Christian says no, then sorry, dude. And it just they can't jeopardize the team of saying that we're going to keep McCaffrey into his 30s when his workload and his injury history say it won't last.
Well, are you buying this new emergence of the offense? Are you buying the pivot?
No.
Right now.
No.
Okay. So, all right. So let me ask you this: if you're not buying the pivot, then Ricky Pearsall is a legit replacement for who then?
Debo.
Is it
next year?
All right. So you believe that BA is gonna get his deal signed?
Yeah, they're going to have to. And he's 26. He's still in his prime. He's still got great years left. He's central to the offense. He's developed a great rapport with Purdy. I think that he needs to be an investment in the future of the offense.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do with Juwan?
Let him go. You know, they drafted Pearsall. They drafted Cowing. There's no room left for Juwan. So you either trade him or you sign him to a one-year deal, but you aren't getting extended either. I'm sorry, but we got to move on.
So Juwan's not going to sign his tender, right? Eventually he has to. Or do you think he doesn't?
I think he has to once we get up on it. When the season's about to begin, he'll know that if he doesn't have camp with another team, that he's not going to get an opportunity, at least not early in the year. So I think that he will eventually have to. The Niners could be looking to deal him. They've got the players now. They've got the volume at wide receiver that they can absorb his loss. But my read on it is that Shanahan's going to want everybody on deck. This is their last best chance at the Super Bowl. He's going to want to keep Juwan, but on his terms. And if the players aren't willing to do that and they're saying, no, I won't play unless you extend me, then I think they'll look to trade Juwan. But Ayuk, I don't think that they're going to do anything with him. They're just going to try to get him signed, and if he holds out, he holds out.
Well, where do we find syntax? That's my biggest issue. With all this happening, where do you find time to go win a championship? Right? Where do you find time to be cohesive enough to get through a whole year? That's what I'm worried about. It's gonna play itself out, right?
It will.
I don't want to go doomsday salutes. I don't want to go doomsday scenario. It's gonna play itself out. But you do have to say, I mean, at what point does this affect, the culture of the locker room?
Well,
right?
it is now. They're not there for OTAs, and that gets noticed. Then you go into camp, and if they're still not there, then that's an even bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
My question with the Niners on all these contract talks is, what advantage do you have by stretching it out until you get to July and August? The players aren't compromising on the money that you sign anyway. Just get a deal done. I don't understand that. I think that, Ayuk wants 27 to 28, pay it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it long term to have him on your team, motivated and a key part of the offense. Look at all the touch points that he has in the offense, not just as a receiver, but as a blocker, as a presence in the locker room, as a mentor. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that he adds to the team that's valuable. And if you're talking about spending $3 million or not, why not spend that extra $3 million on Brandon Ayuk? I don't understand why you wouldn't, especially if you're going to move on from Debo next year. Financially, it's not a big deal. And if you sign Ayuk, then the longer term deal you can get with him, and the sooner you can make it, the better off you'll be in terms of having a lighter cap hit early on and then backload.
Yeah. I understand that, but I mean, essentially, it's not $3 million. It's 3 times 5, right? Essentially,
yeah.
So it's really $15 million. It's not 3.
It's 3 for this year, but it's $15 million overall. I get your point. I agree with that. But the cap is going up. The team is successful, and part of the way of maintaining where they're at, where they stay in the mix, is to keep Brandon Ayuk, especially if you're going to plan on moving on from Debo. You're going to need that veteran presence to stabilize the offensive receiver. You're going to need Ayuk.
What do you think about this comment from Skylar Cross? They could be hoping someone matches their tender so they can get a second-round pick. I think that's a bit rich.
No. They set the second-round tender knowing no one in the league would offer it.
Nobody will pay it. Right. I think they will be shocked as much as we are if somebody paid that.
Yeah. It's not going to happen.
So, moving into this, man, I mean, I like Juwan, right? But we built Juwan. We built his skill set. We highlighted his skill set. Not only have we highlighted his skill set, but we found other guys who are not the same athlete be just as productive as Juwan in that position. He's a little too rich for our blood, in my opinion.
He is, but he's a valuable piece. I mean, look at what he did in the Super Bowl. I mean, you had him as your X factor in the Super Bowl, and you were dead on. I mean, he came through, he stepped up, he got it done. Juwan adds a lot of value to this team, and so I think that Shanahan's going to want to keep him. It's just that, is Juwan willing to eventually sign a one-year deal to stay? And if he's not, then they need to find a team that'll look to deal for him, but they're not going to get a second-rounder back.
I think we got some insider information in the chat, Tom. Right now, we might as well just go ahead and kill our CMC debate. Christian McCaffrey plans on getting married in Rhode Island. I'm from Rhode Island. That explains why he's not at OTAs. That pretty much could be it. I don't.
It is.
I mean, do you really think this is real? Do you think this is real?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it's also true that he's getting married next month, but I think that he does want more money, especially given that next year isn't guaranteed at all. And so you look at what he did last year, it became a contract year for Christian. He went all out. He was there for everything. He was there in the OTAs. He committed himself. He was a leader on the field and off. And he worked really hard, and he achieved incredible things. So I think that he acted last year as if it was a contract year for him. I think that this was something he had in mind. But it's also true that he wanted to win a Super Bowl, and it's also true that he's getting married next month. Now, after he gets married and honeymoons, then what? It's just, is Christian going to be here for the opening of camp is really the relevant question. And between now and then, the Niners will have the post-June 1 money from Armstead's contract rolling over, so they'll be able to give him more money. And I think that's something they can do, is compromise with him. We'll give you more money, we'll guarantee next year, but no extension. And that's up to Christian. If you won't take that, sorry.
Well, from my perspective, I feel like we're just going to come at an impasse right now. We're going to come to a crossroads.
At this point. But it might be that after getting married in the honeymoon and he comes back, that he's okay. He just says that, I trust you guys will take care of me over the next 2 years. And that's on Christian to call. But to your point of the syntax of how does this team transition, next year's draft is loaded at running back. That's where they're going to draft Christian's replacement.
Okay. Well, look, speaking of all of the competition coming up, like I said, this is going to be a quick one, guys. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get into what positions in camp competitions are you looking for? Are you looking forward to?
With Brendel getting hurt and Feliciano moving inside, I want to see what happens there. Does Purdy take over at right guard? Does Spencer assert himself? How has Spencer developed his game in the offseason? We don't know. Let's see that. Let's see what he's got. But I think that Purdy is a more talented guard, and I think that he could plug in. So that's the first one that I'd be looking at.
For me, I'm looking at Jalen Graham, D. Winters, and Devondre Campbell. That entire three-headed race right there is something that I'm very keen on seeing. I don't think Devondre Campbell should play for us. I don't think he should start for us. If he does start for us, that says something about our linebacking core as a whole. And it says something about the rookies, the development. They've been here long enough. It's time for them to pop. I think that's a competition that I really want to see. I'm not going to lie. I want our guys to win. I
don't want to see Devondre Campbell on the field because I think an offensive coordinator will target him.
Right.
And you look at it in Green Bay last year, and it's just he didn't play well. It's just he's done. Devondre Campbell has had a great career. He's been a great player, but he no longer is. So yeah, they need Jalen Graham and D. Winters to step up. And the question is, have they developed enough to be an every down linebacker or not? And it could be that they use them positionally in sub packages. So D. Winters, great blitzer at TCU. They could use him in simulated pressure packages. Jalen Graham maybe first and second down. So there's ways that they can use both of them. But like you, I worry if Devondre Campbell starts.
Yeah. I mean, so all right, okay. So I see this comment right here. I see PDX Niner, and PDX Niner basically says, middle of the pack inside linebacker would be amazing given where we are now. I don't think that I want to give plausible deniability to the linebacking core just yet. These guys have been here long enough. This has been one of our strongest units on the team, and most of the guys are homegrown. I don't think that we should be able to lose one guy and then all of a sudden expect, there to be just a huge drop off. And I understand the one guy is Dre Greenlaw, but these guys should be ready, man. Like in a sense, I've seen Fred Warner and I've seen Dre Greenlaw and I've seen Azeez Al-Shaair. But for all of those, I still see a Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Orton Burks, right? Like, it's time for somebody to step up and be the next guy, right? And I don't want to build in an excuse already just because we lost a great player at the position. I understand that there's going to be a dip, but if we get a middle of the pack guy and we're satisfied, then how do we know that the guy that takes him over is going to be good enough? It's a slippery slope. I don't.
It is.
I want to keep the standard what it is, and if it's not up to snuff, then it's not up to snuff. I think that the young guys should be able to step up and play. It's time. They've been here long enough.
Hopefully so. Yeah. And PDX clarified he's saying IOL literally interior offensive line.
Oh, sorry.
Not linebacker. Mm-hmm. But still, to your point, is when they don't have Greenlaw, they lose physicality. Fred becomes a lesser player. The run defense is weaker. So they're going to need Jalen Graham and D. Winters to step up to fill what Greenlaw provides. And that's an open question. The other problem is linebacker development around the league is taking longer. You look at Patrick Queen, for example. It took him 3 years to finally arrive. And now we're on year 2 for Graham and Winters. Let's see where they're at. So I think they're kind of stuck, is that Eric Kendricks was the guy that could have plugged in and worked out fine, but now we're in the second year of a needed 3 for Graham and Winters, and they're not quite there yet. So they're stuck between transitions.
This is bleak.
They could. It's just, let's see. They know. It's not like Graham and Winters are caught unaware that the starting gig is yours if you can get out there and take it. And we'll see if they do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've seen from them is that they have flash, especially D. Winters. So they're going to get the opportunity to see what they can do in camp. That's what camp is for. Camp is for to shake things up, for you to get your position. And it's only a 2-week window. After 2 weeks, the starters are in and it's over.
Right.
You got to fight for reps after that. So we're really looking at one more month, basically, maybe 6 weeks of the boys before they get to camp. Then they got 2 weeks of competing. Then after that, we'll know what we have. One thing I will tell you is that for what the money is concerned, the Niners intend on starting Devondre Campbell. So
yeah, but
there's that.
He still has to earn it, though. The Niners have usually rewarded the guy they pay, and he gets the first opportunity, but that doesn't mean he stays on the field. They're going to know that, is Devondre Campbell done? Is the fork coming out of his back or not? If it is, then you have to move on. And I worry about targeting. I think that if Devondre Campbell is out there, an offensive coordinator is going to rub his hands and say, "Oh boy," that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, he's a mark. He's a definite mark. And oddly enough, and I have to tip my cap to Larry, actually. I went back and checked this myself. Devondre Campbell has been, he's been chirping saying that he's been misused and that He definitely was, underutilized or overutilized in some cases, and that's why he got hurt. He was saying the same thing before he got to Green Bay.
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
back and checked that.
This is a standard script for him of just I'm fired up about playing, and I just need to be used right. He was used correctly. He was used the same way when he was great. It's just that age has caught up with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a coverage linebacker and really good at it, and now he's too slow. Sorry.
So, all right. So, speaking of linebackers, I think there is somebody that we haven't really been talking about, and that's Tatum Bethune. So, I'm looking at this comment here from Maloniak, and it says if FES QB didn't go down and they continued into the playoffs, Bethune would have been drafted higher as a centerpiece of that D. Was Tatum Bethune really a centerpiece of that Florida State defense?
No, it was Jared Verse.
Yeah. Okay.
And then to a lesser extent, Braden Fisk, who we both don't like. But Tatum Bethune, the problem with Bethune is just his speed. He doesn't have enough speed. I think he's a special teamer. And you still have to factor in the 3-year development curve in the NFL linebacker now. So I don't think you can count on Bethune
at all. Or do you think he'll turn around?
He could. He could lose weight. He could gain some speed. There's things he can do, but to be seen. It's just what are you going to do with the opportunity? He'll have a chance. It's just that I don't think that it's realistic to expect a late draft pick in his rookie year to step in and become a starting linebacker when that just doesn't happen often.
I mean, I could play devil's advocate and say that it happens here, but
well, it can if you've got the athlete. If they drafted Dre in the 6th round, for example, and right. Dre developed quickly, and boom, all of a sudden he's there. But from his first to his second year, he really became Dre Greenlaw. Is the point? Is that the rookie Dre was good, but he wasn't the Dre that we know. And I think that would be the same thing with Bethune. Is that you can't hope for more than you can realistically get.
Oh, okay. So let me answer this. I love this. So I'm using a virtual background, okay? But I do not have the screen yet. It will be here. So I moved around, and right now I'm going to be able to do this a lot better. But that's why. Because it's just my camera doing it. So I actually have a really good camera. And the camera's actually holding together basically the light in the virtual background, honestly. But the green screen is coming, and I'm glad you asked. You know what I'm saying? We got an open door policy here, Tom. We don't shy away from questions.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
We answer questions
all
straight
out.
Up. Yeah,
all
you know
out.
what I'm saying? There's accountability from coaches on this side of this. On this side.
That's right.
Okay? We answer questions.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. We don't shy away over here. So, all right.
Nah.
So,
yeah, and Niner Gang, thanks for the shout out. How you doing?
Yeah, that's my guy too.
Good dude.
What I will ask is, what second or third year guys do you see stepping up? We're talking about transitioning. We're talking about keeping a window open, and we're talking about cutting the fat. Those are 3 different things. Right?
Yeah,
those are 3 different things on the team. Cutting the fat, transitioning from older to young players, and developing and making sure that our young players keep the blood young, right? That we keep the competition hardy on the team. That happens first with drafting well, developing players, and players getting cut. That's good football teams. Good football teams, players get cut. On good football teams, players don't hang around and just have positions. That's not what happens on good football
you aren't handed anything on a good team.
No matter how good the team is, right?
Right.
On good football teams, the players that get cut from those teams end up being starters on other teams, right?
Yeah.
So, with that, what second or third year guys show you that they're going to be here. They're going to be around for a while. Who needs to step up? What do they have to do differently? And if they don't, I need to know guys that are going to step up that you see that are on the rise, and then we need to figure out what they need to do to get there. And I need to talk about guys that are just dead in the water, DOA, where we just don't see it coming.
Okay.
So,
well, the young guy that I believe in most is Jair, my guy. I think that Jair is going to have a big year. What does he need to do differently? He needs to add bulk, add power, so that he can blitz and finish. In college, it's one thing to blitz and finish. In the pros, it's another. He had a couple of blitz opportunities where he didn't finish in the quarterback. I expect that Jair is going to come in chiseled, ready to go, and he's going to be a key part. One of the things that this team really needs is more pressure from the non-defensive linemen, and that's part of simulated pressure. I think Jair is going to be part of that. I think that Malik Mustafa is going to be part of that, and Renardo Green. All of them are young players that bring effort and ability on run D and blitzing. I think all of that's going to be key. Okay. So he's the one I believe in most. Guys that I'm completely unsure on, Robert Beal Jr., what do you got? We haven't really seen it yet. We don't know.
I'm hopeful on Robert Beal Jr., though, because he has the
He's
body
got tools. He's got tools. Incredible speed off of the line, and he does what Kasarik wants. It's just he has to put it all together. And so can he do that now? They could sure use it. Drake Jackson, another one where it's just, what are you going to get? You don't know. He's a box of chocolates. So there's a number of guys where it's just, Cam Latu, what are you going to get? I don't know. Braden Willis, according to Grant, looked really good at OTA, so that would be a positive development. They need a tight end too, and they were using him in cheat motion, taking advantage of his speed. So that's a positive development. Hopefully that can move forward. But I think that Jair is the main guy, and then after that we'll see. More question marks than answers. And mainly for all of those guys, it's get to NFL strength. You have to get to NFL core strength to become a complete player.
Right. All right. Drake Jackson. How are we feeling? Is this now or never? What are we doing?
It is. It's now or never for him, but I don't know if he's going to be now. It's just, I think that he needs to settle on what are you, and he can't be a hybrid in terms of his body type or his play. It's just, what are you going to provide? Lock in on a skill set, develop your body around that, and then fill that role. Because part of the problem at SC was that they kept changing his weight, they kept moving his role around, and so he never got locked in, he never anchored to one thing. And I think that's what he has to do here. Find a specialty and fill it.
If he doesn't have a good camp, it's a wrap.
Yeah, he's done. And same thing with Ambry. And apparently there's at least some positive on Danny Gray, so maybe he can step up.
Well, I heard Danny Gray had a strong OTAs. Did you hear that too?
Yeah, that he made catches with his hands away from his body. That's the issue. So if he gets that done, maybe he can stay. That'd be nice.
Little golf clap, Daddy. So, Spencer Burford, what are we doing with Spencer Burford?
I want to see what he can add, if anything. And if he doesn't add something, then that's an issue. Is that you're fighting for your NFL life. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. You know how I know it's over for him? Dominic Puni.
Oh, well, sure. But Puni goes left, so Spencer still has an opportunity at right guard next year.
Nah. No.
They're going to let Aaron Banks go, and then Puni is going to go left guard. That's where he played at Kansas.
I'm under the impression that Puni may start this year at right guard.
Yeah, this year. Next year, he's going to move left. Because they're not going to be able to afford to keep Aaron Banks. And Kyle not willing to spend on offensive line, previewing the next topic, is going to be an issue. Teams are going to be after Aaron Banks, and they're going to give him more than what the Niners are willing to spend. So Puni plugs in at left guard. And so Spencer still has an opportunity next year at right guard. This year, I think Purdy will start at right guard with Feliciano moving in.
You think Feliciano will move into center?
Yeah, but what we don't know yet is what's the extent of Brendel's injury. We haven't heard anything. No time frame has been placed on his injury and when he can recover.
What
We don't know.
exactly is the injury?
Lower leg, I think, an Achilles
Oh,
or a knee. One or
I don't
the
want to
other. I
speak
forget
ill.
exactly
That's
what, but a lower leg injury where at first they were worried it was arthritic, but apparently not. It's just a sprain. But I still haven't heard anything on a time frame of when he can play again.
Scott Lacrosse says it's arthritis.
It was initially reported as arthritis, but I don't think that. I think that they had additional language after that saying it wasn't arthritic. If it is arthritic, then that's it.
Okay. So we could get into all of the second year guys. We can get into Tate Martin. I feel like we've gone over this team so much, especially during this time of the year.
Yeah.
Right? During this time of the year, I feel like it's disingenuous to really talk about like camp battles and who's really on the rise. It's like, dude, we got to figure out who's going to come into camp in shape. We got to figure out who's going to stay healthy. But what I do want to talk about is the foregone, not even the foregone conclusion, but what I do want to talk about is what we usually don't want to talk about, and that's barriers to a championship, right?
Yeah.
And we got to be honest. We're going to be completely devastated if we don't do anything but win a Super Bowl. We're kind of like swimming in that soup now. Like, if we don't win a championship, the season is an abject failure. It
Well,
sucks.
and the whole era of Shanahan will be a failure if they don't get a ring.
Yeah. I also feel like this era is not gonna go quietly. Right? It's not gonna go quietly. It's gonna be so bad once it all goes down if we don't win. Because you're just gonna see the rats running off the ship as it's going down. You're gonna see it. But I know that you've written about this extensively. You and I have had conversations about this topic, and I'm gonna give you the floor, man. So,
Okay.
What do the 49ers need to change to win?
The first thing is they have to change their investment and their approach in the offensive line. Part of the problem is that Kyle has a cap strategy that's based on scrimping on the offensive lineman outside of Trent. Mm-hmm. That at right guard, center, left guard, and right tackle, they only spend under $11 million this year. By comparison, in those four spots, the Rams are spending $54 million this year. Just to give you an idea of the disparity within the division.
It's not even close.
It's ridiculous. It's 5x. And so it's a change in philosophy, and we'll see how that plays out for the Rams and for the Niners. But the problem is that Kyle is married to this as a core bedrock principle of I can scrimp on the offensive line because I don't need the elite offensive lineman. I have got the wide zone. I'm run first in my linemen. I don't need a great pass protecting unit. We made it to the Super Bowl. All we need is luck. But then you look at it and you say, okay, 2019 Super Bowl, Garoppolo, when he was under pressure, 1 for 9 with 2 picks. That decided the game. 2023 Super Bowl, 9 unblocked rushers on blitzes. That decided the game. Mm-hmm. And so Kyle has a formula that can get him to the Super Bowl, but prevents him from winning it. And so he has to change that. And I don't know if he is. I don't know if he's willing. And so that's the first barrier, is that Shanahan has to change his philosophy on his cap strategy, on investing in the offensive line, and that applies to both free agency and the draft.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. They're never going to invest in the offensive line, and I'm gonna tell you why. Investing in the offensive line does not make you agile fiscally, because once you get a good offensive lineman, he's gonna be there for a long time, and you're gonna have to pay him his going rate. All right. And what happens is that the going rate of paying an offensive lineman while you're trying to figure out whether he's good or not is way too expensive for what the 49ers want to do. Right?
All true. But that's why you then invest in draft picks where you don't spend as much and you can develop them and see where they're at.
Understood.
That's the problem, is that this is compounded. It's not just I refuse to spend in free agency on these 4 positions. It's I also refuse to spend draft picks on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like our biggest problem is process. Honestly, I could see like what you're saying about the offensive line, right? But I want to push back a little bit.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to push back is because the Bills ain't winning Super Bowls either. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
we can look at what other teams spend, but for me, the problem is that if you get me in the game, I should be good enough to win that game. You see where I'm coming from? Like, you don't.
Yes and no. You're good enough to make it. Are you good enough to win it? And this was a core philosophy for Walsh. You win playoff games on matchups. They're losing the matchups in those 4 spots because they don't invest in them. You know, Chris Jones has dominated both games. You have to get better there. You know, this is a physical game. If you lose the matchup, you're dead. And when you face Kansas City and you got Chris Jones who plays inside and outside on key downs, and then you add Spagnuolo and his blitz packages, you're toast. You're done. They have to improve the personnel on the offensive line. Now, they can say, we can't do that in free agency. Okay, then, why aren't you investing in your draft picks in the offensive line? There's no excuse. None. You lost 2 Super Bowls because of this. You cannot continue this. I get your point that, you know, teams that spend a lot of money on offensive line don't necessarily win. But there's a threshold that the Niners have to meet in order to win. You want a championship, you have to contain Chris Jones, not let him dominate you. And that's what he did in both games.
Well, all right, so I see that, but I still think it's process. I still think saying that we need to get a better offensive line but not knowing the overtime rules are 2 different things.
Oh, sure, and that's another barrier.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're getting ahead of me, Coach.
Bro, like,
but yeah, obviously, is that, you know, there are limitations in your head coach that need to be fixed too.
Yeah, like
for the offensive line. And the other question related to coaching is, why aren't you having your quarterback calling protection schemes when he's got a better vantage point? And after this Super Bowl where you had 9 unblocked blitzers, is it a better idea to have Brock calling out those schemes? Maybe down the road. Maybe you need to get him some more reps and more years in the league, but we'll see.
Right.
But Kyle has never done that. Even when he had Matt Ryan, you know, Alex Mack was calling it. And Mack at that time was an all-pro. I get it. But, you know, Brendel was your, backup, alternate Pro Bowl guy.
Right.
And look what happened. You have to adjust to the results, and you haven't. Look what Baltimore did to them. Look what Kansas City did to them. And tell me that it's a good idea to have Brendel calling pass protection. No.
Well, all right. Well, look, and that's more along the lines of where I'm at, Tom. You know what I'm saying? Like, where I'm at with this is, yeah, we could talk about having a better offensive line, investing in the offensive line, drafting and developing for the offensive line, making sure that we lean on the strongest part of our offense and our team. I can get behind all of that, but that's just not their scheme. It's not what they're built on. It's not their edict, right?
But should it be, given the results? If you want to win a ring, what's the alternative?
The alternative is to get an offensive coordinator and learn how to call a game and have situational awareness. I'm not saying that you need look. In order to do job, you don't need the best screwdriver. You just need a screwdriver.
Yeah, you need a functioning. You need a functioning
see what I'm saying?
Screwdriver. Oh, sure. But Kyle Shanahan's the most powerful player, powerful man in the organization. Offensive coordinator is not being touched, changed, whatever. And he's one of the best play designers and script writers in the league. So that won't happen. But what does need to happen is he needs to have an assistant that helps him through those blind spots. Somebody that can say, throw the flag, Devontae Smith trapped the ball, and they're rushing up to hike it.
Hello.
Obviously, he trapped it. Why are you freezing? And that's why you need it. And this is another one of my barriers is that Kyle has to be willing to have that guy next to him in the sidelines saying no. They need a sounding board of someone
Right.
that can correct him. You've got Debo in his all-world year, and you don't give him the ball for the last 9 minutes of the NFC Championship against the Rams. What are you doing? And that's where you need that second voice next to Shanahan reminding him, by the way, we need to course correct.
Right.
And Sentinel, dead on.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I'll say this. I want to see where Kyle has grown this season, offensively as a head coach. You know, we watch him like a hawk. We're gonna be looking at everything. I want to see if they have a 2-minute drill this year, right? Like if they actually know how to matriculate down the field. Like really. I'm
Kyle, there are things that Kyle refuses to do. That's one of them.
yeah.
And the problem is that there are things that need to change, but he won't. And so that goes down to offensive line philosophy and investment. That goes to allowing Purdy to audible or call protection schemes or a 2-minute drill or practicing in the rain. There's all these things that Kyle refuses to do because that's what his dad did. He needs to adjust, and I'm not sure he will.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I want to see what Brandon Staley brings into. Um, I mean, but in some instances, we've kind of seen this, right? Because Anthony Lynn came in from the Chargers, was a head coach. And sometimes you got to ask what his impact was. I
Yeah,
don't know
it
his
sure didn't
impact.
seem like he had one.
I don't know his impact. I didn't even want to be disrespectful, but I don't know what Anthony Lynn did here.
The only thing I heard about Anthony Lynn was that he was involved in the draft pick of TDP. I didn't
That's
hear
what I
anything
heard
about
too.
game day or anything else.
I heard that
So
shit too. I
but
heard
hopefully,
that too.
hopefully Staley has more of an impact than that, and I think he's going to have a direct hand in getting them to more simulated pressure, more 5-man fronts. They're going to get to where they need to be. Their defense has to get to a point of disguising coverages, masking, and a lot of different guys attacking from different spots in the field. They've got to get there. And I think that Staley can help make that happen. But, like you, I was hopeful that Anthony Lynn would make a difference, that he would be that sounding board. He wasn't. And Purdy
No.
could be that voice, but they need somebody calling the plays next to him, or at least someone that can tell Kyle, hey, throw the flag, get Debo involved. Somebody that's watching the game that isn't playing it, who can remind him of these things that are blind spots in what Kyle does.
I do see this as a next level of maturity for Brock though. I do see this.
Yeah.
I do see Brock coming to the sideline telling Kyle to get his head out of his ass. Like saying, "Hey, are you looking at this? Are you paying attention to this?" I do I talk about this often. I want to be able to see if Brock has the room to become the man and the leader that he needs to be while being under Kyle. I think that's going to be a very good social experiment to pay attention to. And also, we'll be able to see how this organization is ran with Jed truly running the show. I think that's a storyline that's gone woefully underreported, that this is 100% Jed's team now. So
yeah.
That I wonder what we're gonna look like when Jed doesn't have to answer to Dr. York.
Yeah. Coach, I need to interject. I need your audio to go up. I can barely hear you again.
Oh, you can barely hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Keep going.
Is that much better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It
All
doesn't
right,
need to be
thank
that. You can go down a little bit from there.
All right, is that much better?
Yeah.
All right, sorry guys. I'm sorry about the volume, guys. If you can't hear me. Go
No
ahead,
worries.
Tom.
And so Sentinel is saying Brian Greasy. The problem is that Greasy's focused on coaching up Brock in games. So that would be a split role for him. Is that he could develop to that where but I think that the team's going to want him to stay as the quarterback coach, and the chances are good that given the rep that Greasy is building in developing Purdy and his role in drafting him, that Greasy is probably going to get hired as an offensive coordinator down the road. So I think that they're going to need to bring in somebody who Kyle respects that can be that sounding board next to him that can fill the blind spots, and we'll see. But Greasy, I would expect that this might be his final year with the Niners.
Yeah, it seems like he's trending that way too. He's getting a lot more confident. You can see him in the interviews. There was a couple of teams that reached out and tabbed for him to interview for I think OC jobs. So yeah, I think Brian is well on his way. If not OC, he for sure is going to go be somebody else's quarterback coach.
Yeah, or like the assistant head coach for offense or something like that, but some manufactured title, but probably offensive coordinator. And so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the point is they need somebody. There needs to be a sounding board for Kyle because he's had moments where he's frozen and it's cost the Niners dearly. They have to fix that. And to your point, Coach, that's a process fix that needs to happen. Another one of the barriers, the offensive coordinator is making your draft picks, and it shows. Look at what Kyle just did. 2 wide receivers picked before you take a center, a tackle, a defensive end, or a defensive tackle. What are you doing? And then you look at the history and you say, how many reaches did Kyle make in the second and third round on weapons, on wide receivers, on Dante Pettis?
Jalen Hurd.
Jalen Hurd.
TDP.
Trey Sermon. Yeah, all of these wasted picks. And it all comes from your offensive coordinator making the picks.
Yeah.
Lynch has to step up in his role and not be so accommodating to what Kyle wants. He has to be able to tell Kyle, no, we have to invest in the trenches. And this gets to my next point on the barriers, not using what the draft gives you. This draft gave you the best offensive line class in 15, 20 years, and you come out of it with basically one lineman in Purdy.
I had to fool myself.
You don't take a center, you don't take a tackle, and that all stems from your offensive coordinator making the draft picks.
I had to fool myself into thinking that this was okay. Like, I had to, lie to myself to say, well, we really don't invest in it, so the fact that they got something anyway shows you that they're trying, and it's just like, no, don't make excuses for them, bro. Like, we could have gotten so many good linemen down the line. Like, Isaac Garendo, did he really need to get picked where he needed to? Like,
no.
I think it was a reach, bro. And I liked Isaac. I was talking about Isaac Garendo all off season. Before I was like, I like him. I think he's good. I didn't like him in the 4th.
No way. I think that Garendo is going to be their kickoff returner, and that's going to be his primary role. And he'll get some sub packages for gadget plays, and that'll be it. And he's not a running back. He's a track guy who plays football, as opposed to a running back with a track background. Huge difference. And as a diehard track fan, I know track. And then you look at the combine, you say, okay, this guy ran 10.5 in high school, 24-foot long jumper. Okay, great, cool. But where's the running back skill? I don't think it's there. I think that Garendo was essentially their designated kick returner. He's Ray Ray's replacement. And he's going to replace Ray Ray as the occasional gadget player as well. That's his role. And so you used a 4th-round pick to replace Ray Ray? Really? And again, that's what happens when your offensive coordinator makes the picks. Lynch has to assert his role and say, no, you can't continue to be this kid in a candy store. No. We have to grow up. We have to buy vegetables, and we have to eat them.
Yeah, we can't have cereal for lunch.
Right. And that's what they've been doing for every draft. So you got to say, look, every team in this division except us is investing heavily in their trenches. That's going to catch up to us eventually, especially when, again, it's playoff games are won on matchups and you're losing the matchups in the offensive line. If you're not going to spend, and I get that, then you have to draft, and they're not. I like Purdy, but where's the rest of the picks? Where's the tackle? I think that they whiffed on Rosengarten. They didn't know Baltimore was going to take him when I saw 3 different mock drafts that had Rosengarten to the Ravens. Come on.
Yeah. It sucks, bro.
So there's that. And then my last point is bigger picture. It's that there's a chance to pivot. Once Trent retires, now you've got more money to spend, and then the onus goes on Shanahan. Are you going to now invest in a balanced offensive line, or are you going to try to repeat the Trent formula? And Trent is a unicorn. He's a lock Hall of Famer.
He's one of one.
You're not going to get that again. So, should you then spread the wealth in the offensive line? Shanahan will have that opportunity in 3 years. And so the question is, what do you do between now and then in terms of your drafting and free agency and trades to make sure that you can transition out of Trent? Because it might be that teams by then aren't willing to give or let a left tackle, especially of his caliber, go to free agency. It's just not going to happen. They're also not going to trade him. And so how do you get this guy? Back when they got Trent, it was possible to go trade for a left tackle. In today's NFL, it's a lot harder. And so if you're going to depend on doing the same thing, probably not going to be able to do it. And so the question then becomes, all right, how do you deal with that? Shanahan had his first opportunity in this draft. He had players that could have replaced Trent. And he didn't. And he chose not to trade up. And he chose not to trade up ahead of Baltimore to get Rosengarten. You can't continue to make those mistakes and expect to transition out of Trent and be okay. Otherwise, you're going to take a drop.
Are we not giving enough credit to how much Trey set us back?
Yeah, and the problem was that the team was so good that when they traded for Trey, they still had enough talent that it didn't matter.
Right.
That Jimmy, bad as he is, could still get the team through. The problem that they're now facing is not having those picks on a team that now needs that talent. It's not that getting Trey was the problem. It's that losing the picks long term is what killed them. It's why they're in this position of we've got a great old core and a too young, underdeveloped, under-talented backup infrastructure. It's just you don't have the next wave of talent to step in because you traded for Trey and you traded for CMC. You gave up a ton of picks. Now the CMC trade, I get it, it worked. You can't really challenge that, but they lost those picks, and that has really set them back, and especially the Trey trade in not having picks. I mean, Micah went with the pick that they used to trade up from. It's just imagine this team with Micah Parsons. It's just,
ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's another thing of draft awareness. You need to know what draft you're in, and they didn't. And they've made that mistake before. When they took McGlinchey, they weren't aware that this was the best draft in 10 years. It was loaded. And they chose, no, we're going to let Trent Brown grow, trade him for a pick, and then replace him with that pick. It's just, you're using accounting to make a draft pick in the best draft in 10 years. There's not enough draft awareness by this team in a lot of ways. The McGlinchey draft being one of them, and then not using what the draft gives you, especially this year, is another.
Is the awareness? It's hard for them. It's hard for me to agree 100% with that, Tom. From a standpoint of, is it more so lack of awareness during certain periods of the draft versus lack of awareness? Period. Like, I see tons of savviness in the later years, in the later days of the draft, especially in the later years. Like, it seemed like we just bust on the first day. The first 2 days, we just don't hit.
Well, and what are those picks controlled by? Kyle.
Right.
And where are the picks that Lynch and the scouts make later on? And that the majority of the Niners' success in the draft is later picks because they're not made by Kyle.
Right.
To me, the core problem on this team is Kyle Shanahan is your GM, and he's failed. You can still say, yeah, but they got to the Super Bowl twice. They did. And so, okay, granted. But how did they get there? On the late picks he didn't make.
Yeah. At this stage of the game, we got to understand the young guys have to step up.
Yeah.
We've got to put ourselves in a better position to kind of rejuvenate the blood on this team. Yeah, I got to be honest. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, we're going to re-sign B.A. Debo's going to be gone next year, and Jawan's not going to sign. Jawan's going to sign the tender, but we're going to get rid of him afterwards when it's time for him to pay. Like, honestly, that's really the deal with those guys. And Ricky Pearsall is going to be able to get used in the best way that they know how, as long and especially if one of those guys leaves, then Ricky Pearsall will be elevated. I'm tired of trying to make it. I'm tired of trying to fake like the receiver situation is a real big deal. It's really not. It's really simple.
It is, but they still have to execute it, though. You still have to sign IU. Once they do that, then all the ducks line up and they're good. But until then, it's in flux. So we'll see what they do. But I'm with you. I think that they'll eventually sign Ayuk, and then it'll all fall into place. They'll be good. And we can point to all the things that are wrong, but this is still a team coming off a Super Bowl appearance. It's not like the sky is falling.
I've got one last tip, one last topic, one last sneaky topic.
Okay.
Who is your surprise cut of this year's camp? I have one.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I'm going to predict yours.
I know you're going to... Don't say mine. Are you going to say mine?
I'm sorry. Okay, well, I have a pretty good idea of who yours is.
Okay.
And I'll nod my head if it's who I was predicting.
Okay, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
My surprise cut of this year's camp is Kyle Juszczyk.
Ooh, that's not who I was predicting.
Yeah.
Whoa, that shocks me. Okay.
I think that...
I thought it was going to be Devondre Campbell.
No.
Okay.
My surprise cut of this year's camp is Kyle Juszczyk. It's been long enough. He's the highest paid fullback in the league. He's the most underutilized player on this offense, has been for some time. And I got to be honest with you, this year was pretty much one of his you don't deserve your money years. Like, I believe that Isaac Guerendo is... All right, so...
You're buying into the Larry Kool-Aid.
Here's
what I say to that Larry stuff. God.
No. I'm not trying to say that he's an H-back.
Okay.
But I am trying to say, if he can block...
Here's the problem. What was Isaiah Guerendo's block rating last year at Louisville?
Absolutely horrible.
52.7. What was the average rating of all the running backs taken around or before him? 70. I think Guerendo
Yo, sacred intuition said get rid of Moody, not Juice.
That's hilarious. Okay. No, it just... Again, Isaac Guerendo is a track guy that plays football. He's not a blocker. And he proved that at Louisville. Larry can say, oh, but he's so big, he's so fast, he can block. He can't block. He proved it. No, stop this nonsense. That stuff frustrates the heck out of me. Drives me crazy. He's a track guy, period. He ain't a blocker, period. So that's that. Juice, Kyle isn't giving up Juice. Juice is a security blanket. Kyle's not doing that. I can agree with you that it's justified in terms of...
It's time. You don't think...
Would
you be surprised?
No, I agree with you completely on it's time to move on. Kyle won't. It's Kyle. Kyle loves Juice. Kyle loves everything Juice can do for him. Even when Juice doesn't do anything, you think Kyle reacts to that? No. They're going to keep Juice. They're going to let Juice go because they're going to have to. They're going to have to make room for him, but I don't think they're cutting Juice.
Did you see that embarrassing? Remember, they said that Juice took a pay cut this offseason. Dog.
Yeah, but then he asked for money back, so come on.
I think the pay cut was like, I want to say the pay cut was like a percent of his deal.
It wasn't much. Because they initially said that, we need you to take a significant pay cut, and he said, no, I can't do that. Then he entered into negotiations, and what they ultimately ended up doing wasn't much. But again, Kyle sees this as last best chance at the Super Bowl. He's going to want Juice on board for that. I'm with you that they should, but they won't.
See, this right here is the mark of a spoiled child that lives in excess. This comment right here.
Yeah, and who would that represent?
This comment right here. Just take the first two words off of this and just read this. Once all options open, even if he doesn't use them that much.
And is that a great description of Kyle Shanahan as GM and offensive coordinator? Yeah.
Yep.
Dead on.
Yeah.
Which is why Juice stays.
Yeah. I mean, that right here, this right here is how you convince yourself to go get a slot receiver in round 1.
Yeah.
This right here.
Kid in a candy store, Kyle is GM. And he has been for years, and it's killed the team. It's not just that they have lost the picks due to Trey. It's they've lost picks due to Kyle.
Yeah.
Look at all these. I mean, Jalen Hurd, Trey Sermon, TDP, Dante Pettis, and it adds up. All of those wasted second and third round picks, and that's the sweet spot of every draft is the second and third round.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that they didn't have some picks; it's the picks they did have were blown.
Tom, it's been a good one.
Absolutely, Coach. Always.
This was a great one, and I know I'm in the Matrix right now, but the green screen is coming, and it's gonna be so dope, y'all. Like,
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
you know, I'll be trying to come with some different shit, man. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
you like the setup? So, I know I'm choppy just because I'm on the virtual. I got the virtual background, but I like Tom on my shoulder. Tom on my shoulder right here, my dog.
Yeah. Well, it's such a blessing and a privilege to be with you, Coach.
Hey, man.
I love doing this.
Tom, you're my
And
guy,
fortunately, the chat backs us up, and we appreciate you guys, and we definitely appreciate each other.
100%.
Coach is as good as it gets.
Oh,
Character, person, he's amazing. Believe me.
Guys, Tom, don't get me started, man. Class personified, guys. Class personified. One of the best guys I know. But hey, this was a good one. Now Wednesdays, me and Tom are switching to Wednesdays. We're not waiting until Friday no more. We sick of that shit. We're coming back on Wednesdays. It's gonna be me and Tom. This is my man Tom Jensen. It's the coach. Stay low. Keep your feet moving. Have a good one, guys.